So, some things change. One thing does not. What could that be? What? For some of us, it's our shirt. It's I looked up some stuff here that I thought was valid. Now, not everybody here grew up with a fondness for the words Jesus or Jesus Christ. And yet, if I said, I'm doing a report that Wayne Dwyer said, everybody be, ooh. But for some people, when they hear the words Jesus, they get a little, But today, I'm going to talk about Jesus, because Frank Whitney, who did a lot of this lesson, he refers to Jesus' ministry. He never refers to Jesus as an object of worship. He never tells us that. And I like using Jesus as a teacher. Jesus is a very valid teacher. And in Unity, we don't have deities except what we call God, and even God's not a personality. As I say, whatever you're trying to get God to do, if you would get into the consciousness that whatever God could do, God has already done, you will be a lot better off. Because then you'll understand it's only about revealing it. It's only about now changing your thoughts to create the conditions in order to see it. We spend a lot of time trying to get something, trying to get God to do something, trying to get other people to do something, trying to get ourselves to do something, when really it's about getting quiet and letting it be revealed. I am very clear that all the good stuff in my life, I didn't do it, but I did become willing to experience it. And often, in the midst of the experience, I get confused and start to think either, oh no, now I could lose it, or I've got to make it, how do I keep it? And I start to think it's about me again. And I start to think, I have to create this, so I have to manipulate everyone into cooperating so that we don't lose this great feeling. And it's not that at all. So I'm going to read a few things here to us. And I say us because I need it as much as anybody. Frank B. Whitney, who was a teacher at Unity Village, Unity School, said Jesus Christ, the great teacher and healer, was able to heal the sick because of his clear perception that man, in reality, is spiritual. He cleared from the consciousness of the sick the belief that man is something sinful or diseased. Now, we no longer need to say, Jesus healed the sick. Jesus gave people an opportunity to rethink and decide, oh, healing is possible. When the woman touched his hem, the hem of his garment, and he said, it is your faith that made you whole. She had faith that if she touched his garment, she could be healed. She had been bleeding for a long time. And she said, if I just touch it, because I know he knows about healing. So if I touched him, now he was sensitive enough to know the garment had been grabbed. And so he called her out on it and said, what are you doing? You don't have to use me for that. You clearly know that healing is within you. You clearly know that healing is possible. If you didn't, you never would have reached out. And that's what I say to each one of us here, is we all know. We all know healing is possible. We all know, and I just don't, I mean physical ailments. We're talking about all the healing. The financial ones, the harmonious ones, the earth, the sky. We all know that healing is possible. And somehow we keep trying to claim that it isn't. Well, we'll say, I know it's possible, but I'm busy. I don't have time to think those thoughts right now. Or we've already set out a plan, and we're afraid we're not going to get to manifest. Oh, if I get on board with this God thing, I'm going to lose everything. If I get on board with this God thing, I'm not going to be able to do the stuff I want. I'm not going to be able to heal this cough. I'm not going to be able to. It's okay. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to lose something good. And until we decide, until I turn it over, I'm never going to have all the good that's promised. Until I turn it over, meaning my thinking, meaning my behaviors, meaning my desires, I'm never going to be able to have all the good that was promised. And I, years ago, decided I want all the good that's promised. I want every bit of it. It's promise. I expect promises to take place. And so, I had to show up and do my part. What is my part? To get still. Oh, isn't that hard? Isn't that the most difficult thing, to get still? But I don't know how to meditate. I can't meditate. I can't be quiet. I can't. Oh, of course you can. Quit affirming you can't. Of course you can. What's that? What's that? What?
It's very hard to be still.
So? So what? That it's hard. If you exercise the muscle, it gets easier. You know, if you start with a 10-pound weight, woo! And then you raise it to a 20-pound. You're juggling them, and then a 30 and a 40 and whatever. Until you have no business going heavier. But you exercise the muscle. And it becomes possible. But to think, I can't do it because it's hard. I can't have a spiritual life. It's too hard to have a spiritual life. It's never too hard. What's hard is the resistance to a spiritual life. What's hard is my thoughts that I'm somehow going to lose. Because God wants me to be poor. God wants me to never be in a relationship or have sex again. God wants me to suffer. I didn't read that in my Bible. I don't read that anywhere in the Jesus messages, the words in red. I don't read that in Emily Cady. I don't read that in Myrtle Fillmore. I don't read that in Charles Fillmore. I don't read that in Emmett Fox. I don't read that in Matthew Fox. I don't read that in any of the books I read, Course in Miracles. I don't read anywhere that I am supposed to suffer in order to have a spiritual life. What I have proven is by committing to a spiritual life and doing as I am guided. Which means I don't put a lot of substances in my body anymore. Certain substances I don't put in at all. And here's the main reason why. Because it's a block to my prayer life. Clearly cookies have not been that block. Which is not true. Sugar became the block. And right now I'm not doing so much with that. Can you not tell how stealth I am? Anything that I use to try to manipulate my thoughts, your thoughts, the world, is a block to my spiritual life. Any place where I shut down and try to define love, try to define peace, try to define joy, any place where I declare to myself, even silently, is I can't be happy unless I get rid of this. I can't be happy unless you change. I cannot be at one with what I know to be true. And it is a one day at a time, sometimes one moment at a time process. And one can live with the discomfort of change. See, what changes is my understanding of God. What changes is my understanding of principle. What changes is my understanding of myself within God, within principle. What changes is my physicality. What changes is the world I see. What changes is you. And we're not going to say for good or bad. It all just changes. I decide if it's good or bad based on how I feel, based on what my mother taught me. But what is. Principle is, and principle isn't hard and cold, but principle is always going to be principle. Divine law is always going to be divine law. And God, which is law, which is principle, which is love, is never going to change. If you want the joy that we promise here, if you are in a 12-step room and you want the joy that you have been promised there, if you are in any kind of healing modality and you want the joy, the peace, the possibility that is there, you must accept it. My teacher said, quit talking about what is wrong. Quit talking about the thing that's going to change, the very thing you want to change. Quit talking about it as if it hasn't. Quit looking for the pain. Quit looking for the misery. Quit looking for that and start looking for the love. Where is love active in my body? Where is love active in this service? Where is love active in this class? Where is love active in this meeting? Where is love active in this relationship? Where is love active in this song? Where is love active in my life? That's what we need to be seeking. Where is love active? Where is wholeness active? Where is power active? Where is presence active? That's what I want. And I want to be master of that, not a slave. That sickness will remain, or that presence might not stay. I want to be master of my thoughts. Now, David talked about empathy and unity. I need to be present for my thoughts. I need to be present for my feelings, but I can't make them my master. I cannot be a slave to my past. It's not about fixing our past. It's about walking into the presence of God, here presently. Walking into the presence of love, here presently. Walking into what will not change. Every time I've seen a great shift in my life is when I accepted what is rather than entertaining what isn't. Every time I begin to entertain what isn't, the stuff that's all going to change, that's all going to fall away, that's all going to just disappear, that's when I become uneasy, I become threatened, I become doubtful, I become argumentative, I become contrary. And then I get sick. Then I take on sickness in my body. I take on sickness in my mind. And I begin to do things that will hurt myself. For some of us, I don't know about in this room, but some of us on this planet lately, I'm becoming more and more aware of self-esteem. That some beings, their self-esteem has gone so low they can no longer identify with adults, and so that's why they pursue children. Their self-esteem becomes so low, they don't know how to communicate anymore. They can't function in a world as an adult. And so they pursue things that only seem to destroy. Things that separate them further and further from what they know to be true. Drugs play a big part of this in our society. I know some people, drugs have taken them so low, so incredibly low, and that they could tell you about God all day long and have no connection to it. And they have secrets. And if you read your papers, if you listen to the news, more and more of those secrets are becoming public. In arrest records, in jails, in prisons. And what shocks me is so many people, the first time they are arrested isn't their bottom. Their second time isn't their bottom. Their third time isn't their bottom. And so I say to us, because it's us, let there be peace on earth, let it begin with me, that has to rise up the vibration, to take our God selves and declare it as light, rather than hating people who falter. Do not hate the people who falter. And I get it, don't say hate the crime either, it's not that. It's look at, oh my gosh, this thing happened. Children were abused. Many of us were abused in one form or another. Many of us in this room today were abused. We were treated poorly by adults who forgot who they were. We were treated so poorly. We were treated as if we didn't exist, as if we were just objects. And we have to rise up and say, okay, how do I use that to be of service in the world? How do I rise up to what is, so that I don't keep focusing on what isn't? Everything that lacks spirit will change, will fall away. I don't know what time that will happen. I'm hoping now. That's my dream, right now. And so to begin to look at, okay, some things change, one thing doesn't. Which are you going to focus on? The some things that change, or the one thing that doesn't? What do you want? I decided years ago I really wanted the one thing that doesn't. I really, really wanted it. And I was on board with it, and I'll tell you that I spent 24/7 involved in that. I really focused on what I wanted. If I were in an uncomfortable situation, I thought nothing, saying, excuse me, I'll be right back. And I would go somewhere quiet and do a surrendering prayer, so that I didn't stand in a situation hating myself and that other person for being in that situation. A lot of it used to happen at tech rehearsals, and don't tell mama, believe it or not. I mean, there were a lot of personalities coming together in those kind of instances. But I would go and pray, and I would come back, and I didn't feel the heat that I felt beforehand. And to say, God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. And so I would say this prayer because I believed that prayer. And when I first heard it, I didn't have a clue what it meant. But I knew God did, and that was good enough for me. And as I continued to say it, I began to understand what it meant to me. And so it became the greatest thing, the greatest gift I could give myself was the surrendering of my thoughts about this that I did not like over to the care of love, over to the care of joy, over to the care of presence, of power, to keep surrendering my thoughts over and over again. And I did that for a long time. And then I fell away from it for a while. And I started wanting stuff of the earth. I started wanting things and kind of giving up my principle for them. I didn't steal and lie, but nevertheless, I started making people my source instead of. I really did that when I got this job. Of all times, just to give up seeking God as your source when you become a minister of a church. But people became my higher power. No, that's not true. What I thought people's opinions of me became my higher power. What I thought people thought of me became my higher power. When I got into a relationship with David, my worries about what he thought of me, I'm not saying what he thought of me, I'm saying my worries of what he thought of me became my higher power. And I lost, for a while, my greatest strength. And these days, I'm pursuing my greatest strength again, which is the source of strength, the source of power, the source of all that is. And it's invisible, but it lives in the presence of all beings. The source, do you get it, is invisible, but lives in the presence of all beings and all things and all events. And I can choose how to experience them today. That principle, that God idea, lives well in all of us. So would we choose what isn't or what is? We don't have to choose it with arrogance. We don't have to choose it with hostility. And I really suggest you get over the idea that you could lose any good thing by choosing less than the perfect understanding of God, of good, of love. The perfect understanding. We may not have it yet, but it's being revealed to those of us who want it. Divine mind, the divine voice within, is revealing everything we want to know about it, according to our willingness to receive it, according to our willingness to interrupt that I can't do it because it's hard, that I can't have it because it's too difficult to receive, I can't have it because of the way I was treated as a child, I can't have it because I don't understand it. My teachers told me I could have everything good. They told me I would have to forgive everything that I think isn't. They told me I would have to forgive all beings. They told me I would have to give up a concept of hell. They told me I would have to give up a concept of sickness. They told me I would have to give up a concept of an enemy. That doesn't seem like so much to ask. To live well all the time. To live in peace and well-being all the time. Let your source be the good that is. And release everything else into the nothingness. Thank you.
Thanks.